'Twas the night after Grinchmas, and 7 days later, I've got some outtakes and a whole lot of bloopers. And 7 days later, I've got some outtakes and a whole lot of bloopers. And 7 days later, I've got some outtakes and a whole lot of bloopers. 'Twas the night after Grinchmas, and 7 days later, I've got some outtakes and a whole lot of bloopers.
Oh, greetings, this is Ron. So I'm editing up my Grinchmas cinematic playthrough, and I just wanted to include a little video for you guys on some of the bloopers and the outtakes that did not make it into the final scene. Hope you enjoy it. Before I start, two things to note. So first, this was originally intended to be a first-person playthrough of the map for folks that didn't play Minecraft and wanted to see what I had created. But then I decided to mix in some third-person shots just to make it a little bit more cinematic and give it sort of a different feel to it. But I did want to stay as close to the first-person playthrough as I could. So it's probably about 1/3 second person. So it's probably about so it's probably about 1/3 in the third person and 2/3 from a third person point of view, if that makes sense. But you've already seen the cinematic, so that goes without saying. The second thing is when I did film my third person scenes, I did it by myself. So I had my main computer set up as the server and the camera, and I would get my camera angle into the right position, and then I'd switch over to a laptop where I would actually control the character, and so I couldn't always see what I was filming while it was being played because I was doing it alone. And I tried to do this in as few shots as possible. So some of these bloopers you'll see, you can kind of keep that in mind. I was also lagging a lot on my laptop, and I didn't realize it at the time. But it's because, I think it's because of the Rouville factory. And now that some players have played the map and pointed out what's going on there that is causing some lag, I think I've got a fix in place. So that shouldn't bother anyone who's played version 1.02 or higher. But in any case, let's get right into the bloopers. Alright, so this is the opening scene of both the cinematic playthrough and the trailer. This is a fly-in over Rouville, and I really wanted to get this shot right. And I wanted to start in between the two smokestacks in Rouville and then zoom over the city, so you just really got that feeling of air pollution and metropolis. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, when you have an obstructed ceiling in Minecraft, so I have blocks up above to simulate clouds, when you move in and out from under those clouds, the lighting in the distance switches on and off like a light, and I just could not get this scene perfect, so I ended up piecing together about 4 or 5 different takes for the final version. Okay, now the reason I'm leaving this scene in this video of the house is because, for whatever reason, when I first started filming, I was very careful to turn off my Too Many Items mod so that you just saw the game being played with the little inventory windows, but you did not have mods showing. And at some point I must have turned TMI back on and filmed over half the cinematic with it on, and I had to go back and redo many shots twice. Another thing that I forgot to turn off in a couple of my filmings is my flying mod. So in this case zombie, and that was getting pretty frustrating. Okay, so this trail here, this was a deleted scene, and it was basically a third-person view of going up the trail. I kind of wish I had put this into the final cinematic. I don't remember why I chose the first-person view over this one, but I did want to share it here. And the second half of this scene I did cut out because of these hovering transparent block outlines that I felt would be distracting from the scene. Then of course, as I was filming the trail, as I said, I was playing on 2 separate computers going back and forth, and at one point I actually lost the player from the camera angle. I had flew up to a ledge up above and landed there, and so when I looked around from that computer, everything looked fine. And when I flew up for a close-up on the main computer, I flew to the trail and I couldn't find the player.
I looked all around, I logged out, I logged back in. I must have spent 5 minutes and I could not find the player. I thought Minecraft was glitching and the two players couldn't see each other. It just happens that one was up on a ledge and one was down below the ledge. Now here's a place where I actually lost some footage. I had lined up a really nice shot from a third-person perspective to see the player coming down the stairs, and that video was lost, as well as a third-person scene where the player is going around Whoville and destroying houses. I had actually thought that I filmed him going in and coming out of each house, so I could mix that in with what you see in the final video from a first-person perspective, and apparently I either deleted that clip or never hit F9 on Fraps to film it, and that was not in the end product. So in the sewing machine room, this might be the single most confusing part for me in editing, because I had to film this 4 or 5 different times. I had too many items on. I had changed the texture pack for paintings to be red leather halfway through filming, and I had some inconsistencies in what was in my inventory bar. But the worst part of it was I would film the entire scene and get right to the last moment, and boom, I rip a curtain down and I left a sign behind the curtain with player instructions, which just doesn't fit in the video. Then the other thing I did, after you put on the clothing, I walk out the door in the first version of the movie that you haven't seen, and the whole rest of the movie, you're no longer wearing those clothing when it switches to a third-person view or when you see yourself in the inventory window. The clothes just magically disappeared and you're blue again. So one of the last edits I made to the movie was to go back in and show the player throwing the clothes out the window because he didn't like the look of the Santa outfit. Oh, and then of course, as soon as I walked out the door again, I had forgotten to take out signs outside, so I had to redo this scene. Alright, so this cart sequence was also a little bit disappointing to me. The carts don't always fall off the ledge, as you might know from playing the map, so I had to get a little bit creative in my editing there. And then the first time I tried to get on the minecart, or I should say the sleigh, to go down the mountain, of course I kicked the cart too early and it went down without me. And then when I actually did get what I felt were pretty good camera angles on the cart ride, because of the way Minecraft multiplayer lags, the sleigh never actually looked like it was underneath the player's bottom as he slid down the hill. So it looked like the player's just sliding down without the sleigh, and I just couldn't get it fixed for the final version. So I think that section is all first person as well. In Whoville, I left this shot in not because there's any real error other than the too many items popping up, but I wanted to point out that this is probably the biggest place where I have continuity errors in the final product. So if you watch the movie and you watch the inventory bar very closely throughout the whole movie, just pay attention to the inventory bar, you will occasionally see items disappearing and appearing in the inventory bar throughout time. Now, for the most part, I felt like this wasn't detracting from the video because there's enough happening up above to keep your focus, and the item bar is easy to miss. In fact, no one that's pre-screened the movie mentioned it at all, so I ended up leaving most of that in, but in some cases I went back and fixed those continuity errors. Now here's a nice little scene where I was setting up the camera for a shot, and I must have been holding the flint and tinder in my hand, and I meant to break the snow off of one corner of the roof to get a better angle, and I accidentally set the house on fire. Now I didn't get to capture that, but I must have hit F9 while I was trying to put the fire out with water buckets, and then that froze, and so then I tried to break the ice, and it just got a little bit out of control, where I should have just turned the map off and reloaded it and gone from there. And here's a little scene where you walk through the banquet hall in the second occurrence, and the first time I filmed this, all of the chairs were backwards. Of course, what Minecraft blooper video would not be complete without an occurrence of accidentally attacking your own dog? And at the end of this, I foolishly filmed the scene over on the opposite side of the room, and when I edited it all together, it made no sense at all. And then this sequence here, I've actually got 2 alternate endings that were cut out of the movie. So the first time I filmed the ending, I was actually walking in first-person perspective, and I felt it was a little bit boring. I wanted to fly up above and circle the tree, and I wanted to get the star sparkling at the top. So I did that in the second version of this ending, And this video was actually the one that was shared with a pre-screen audience. And one person pointed out, why is your character suddenly able to fly? You see him walk out of the house and all of a sudden he flies up into the air and circles the tree. And it really broke the continuity. So I went back and added the fly around without the hand there, which I should have done from the beginning. And of course, even the credits were not error prone in this case. So I hope you enjoyed these bloopers and outtakes for the Grinchmas cinematic playthrough as much as I enjoyed making it. Happy holidays, and I'll see you all next year.
It was the night after Grinchmas, and 7 days later, I've got some outtakes and a whole lot of bloopers.